Well, hello and welcome. I'm Sue Britz,
And I'm Tina Lokkbakk. Welcome to Retired.
the podcast where we talk about what life is like when we put on new tread, new wheels that move us to our next adventure.
So I think things have been pretty adventurous here in the United States of America, Sue.
I will say that. And here's what we're going to talk about today, Tina. We're going to talk about politics for the first time.
Scary.
And so tell me, what do you think? Why haven't we talked about politics?
Well, I don't want us to eliminate any kind of listener, and I want it to be a safe place for everyone. And I think that's why we've avoided it, because I think we want to be inclusive.
Well, absolutely. Inclusivity is definitely part of it. And, I'm not really concerned about our listenership because we don't have a ton of listeners. And so we're going to probably talk to people who are very like-minded, but knowing that there's a big variety of what, people think about politics. Originally I thought that any discussion about politics would come up organically if it did at all. I don't think we've been actively trying to avoid it, but rather focusing our conversations on topics that deal more directly to our new tread, our new identity, our more of that. So, not sure.
Well, I can honestly say, and you're right about this whole new tread part, but part of being in our new tread is new things happening within our political world too. I mean, that affects our treading,
Well,
actually.
I agree, and I think for me, the way I'm framing how I'm thinking about it today as we have this conversation is, I have a new hope.
So I'm going to ask you, and then I will share if you can't come up with anything. Was there a time in your life where you stood up for a political belief and you were blindsided by just having spoken your truth innocently without trying to damage or hurt anyone? You just spoke.
Politically, no, I don't think that that's ever happened to me.
So, as teachers, we realize we have much impact on our students. And I have to tell you an experience, and I think this could be why I have shut down in being able to express or ask or have anything to do with politics. So here goes. I'm in middle school, and she's probably dead now. We had a substitute, and her name was Mrs. Conklin. And I remember it was right at the time of elections. And I innocently thought nothing wrong with asking her, like, hey, what are you voting or what do you see on this? She got so angry at me. Like it was like I felt like she brought out the blowtorch. I didn't know that there was anything wrong with this. Could be because I had immigrant parents, so they weren't indoctrinated to not speak about politics. We spoke freely at home. I didn't think about it, but she made it very clear that it was impolite, rude. I crossed a line, and mind you, I was in middle school, and I didn't ask with tone. I was just an innocent kid asking an adult because I thought I was interested in people's opinions. And that, I think, began the shutdown of, oh, we don't talk to anyone we don't know well about politics.
That is interesting. That would definitely be a memory that people would have, that would stay with you for a while. Yeah, I think something like that would definitely mark you about talking about politics and being corrected so strongly would do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I haven't had that, and it's funny because as I grew up, I also had an immigrant parent and immigrant myself. Um, you know, we didn't really talk about politics in our household. It was interesting. We didn't talk about a lot of things, but one of them was we didn't talk about politics, and yet, it's all around you. It's everywhere. We were carefully monitored what we were allowed to watch on TV, but things got through, and I got to see some things when we watched nightly news or whatever, but we never really talked politics. And then my parents, they didn't vote because they weren't American. And later they became American and then they did vote. But by then we were adults and all that. But I've always been a political person. I didn't realize it until my good friend Karen said to me one day, it's like, how would you describe yourself? And she said, we asked that of each other, and she thought that one of the top words for me, descriptors of me, is political. And I had never, my instant reaction was, what? You know, and yet then I started understanding yeah, I'm a political person.
Yeah, I think well, I would say maybe we both are, for the very same reason, but I think we really believe in fairness.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of why we were good at our professions as teachers, is because we really advocated for fairness,
And
which is political.
yeah, it is political, and that's why it was hard for me to separate that out as a political thing. But it's about cultural norms and right and wrong, and all that's tied together into politics. So anyhow, our topic today, I think the new thread for me is feeling new hope. Kamala Harris is running for president. That our president Joe Biden has stepped down from running for reelection, and we have a new hope.
Um, we do.
All right, so Tina, I thought maybe what we would do is just throw out some reasons to be happy and hopeful about Kamala Harris.
Well, I want to start with one. Um, do you know that she worked with Biden to cap insulin prescription medications for seniors at $35? And that, at least that's for insulin. I don't know if it's for everything, but thank God. And I think that's just so humane. And I think so many politicians are so far removed from the way people actually live, that was just kind, and the reason I am a Democrat.
Well, I agree. It's about the common sense and coming back to when you are retired, your income is limited then unless you get back into the workforce. This is one that is very impacting for people who are older, whether it's insulin or other medication. As the prices keep going up there exorbitantly, and your need for medical care goes up, it's something
Correct.
that has to be of interest to us. And I guess the AARP wouldn't be in agreement on that one.
All
Uh,
right, your turn.
Well, I was thinking, that's just understanding the reality of people's lives, everyday life, and that's one of the things that I really like about her too. Is she as she's very polished, very refined, and yet when you hear her origin story, you come back to who she is as a person. She is humane. She is someone that resonates. She was the daughter of two immigrant parents. Her name, Kamala, means lotus. Um, and
Oh,
and that was chosen carefully by her parents because, it relates to their culture and upbringing, their way that they think of things. And, when you embrace that and you have these hopes as an immigrant or the child of an immigrant, it's I don't it makes you very humane to me, I think. She's also her parents divorced when she was, I think, 5,
ah,
and that's another just regular person. When we were growing up, she's younger than I am. She is a millennial, so she's one of your people. Um, she growing up, I didn't know a lot of kids in school that came from divorced families, and it was kind of unusual, and people didn't talk about it. It was more taboo. But as we've moved forward in society and our culture, divorce is not an unusual thing. In fact, it's 50% or more, as we know. So being a child of that upbringing, at a time when it was more difficult, or to do, that makes her very human. She's a stepmother. Uh, that's also very much a part
That's
of being
true.
a modern regular person. She's chosen not to have children. Uh, she was raised by a single mother, pretty much. And her
Yeah,
mom,
that's what I was curious about because I didn't read. Her mom actually completed a PhD uh, while having a child, which I think is also pretty outstanding. But it doesn't say much about her dad. I didn't find much about her dad.
well,
So
they say that, that she was primarily raised by her mom. And so to be empowered by the mother modeling this for her and having high expectations, as many immigrant parents do, as they have these incredibly high expectations of their kids, the next generation. Um, what a wonderful model! What a wonderful thing to be able to be resilient and pursue the American dream. And look where she is. I think it's pretty fantastic.
was so excited. I didn't even know, but she was the district attorney of San Francisco.
Yeah.
And she's very pro LGBTQ. And she actually officiated one of the first, if not the first, like legalized marriage. Like she officiated it. And I thought, wow, that's kind of awesome back then in politics, stepping into this world of transition. And she held it. And I thought, okay, that's another open, warm, pro forward moving person.
Inclusive, yeah. I think that was back after Proposition 8 was overturned
Correct.
in 2004, and that was an important time. And to be willing to be the face of that, super important to do. Absolutely.
And courageous.
Yeah. Well, you could start back even farther. As you've got like um, the fact that she was, we could have started with this one, the first vice president, first woman vice president, first Black American, and first South Asian American to be vice president of the United States. Pretty cool.
That's
Um,
true.
and assuming that she becomes our president, she will be the first uh, in all those areas, except of course, Obama was the first Black American to be our president. So that would be a very cool thing. So being and does that matter? One could say, well, yeah, there has to be a first of everything, but you know what? When you don't see it, when you don't see people like yourself in positions of power, in running a government, it anywhere, as simple as seeing yourself in the classroom too, then it's harder to believe, to build that in yourself as
Trust.
a child. Yeah, for children not to see men in the elementary school
That's so
being
true.
being a caring, nurturing leader of them, that's so important. Likewise, I mean, to see women and men all through their education, super important. Same thing for us as adults in society, to see all of us represented, all of us in different places within society. That it does matter, and to be the first, pretty cool. And by the way, long overdue.
So that brings us to another area. And I think it was when she was the Attorney General of California. And it was the housing crisis. And I think she helped a bunch of people, protected them with the foreclosures of homes. I got to go back and read that. But I think that's what she did. And that was huge because so many people were losing their houses left and right. So she had a piece in that. That also shares with me that she, again, is looking out for all kinds of people for all kinds of reasons. So
Well,
that
yeah.
was
So
my.
I mean, to then bring forward her other areas of interest for her, she's big on voting rights. She's big on trying to reduce gun violence. That's one that's out
Oh,
there,
that's
and
true.
everyone should needs to be cared about. And she's really big on women and girls' rights. Right? Let's. That's a huge elephant in the room. Talking about abortion and about birth control access to health care for women and girls, so important. And I got to be right there with her on those.
I'm just happy to know and feel confident that if there are uh, debates between Trump and Kamala, I feel confident in her ability to speak well, eloquently. I think she will. I have confidence in her speaking ability, which I am realizing is very important, especially not within our own country, but also within other countries. Like, you do really need to have someone who can present your country well with speech. And I think that many people forget that is also a skill of being a leader of a country. If you cannot eloquently, clearly, and directly state your intentions, do so with dignity, integrity, um, that's a reflection of the entire country. So you're actually representing an entire country. And I feel very hopeful, um, should she win, that we will now have someone able to present us well with
Right.
speech.
And then, when you're talking, and she's calm, and she is secure, she is, what's the word I'm looking for? She
Not volatile in emotions.
Well, right. She's calm. She's sane. But she's also not a pushover by any means. She is
No.
forceful when she needs to be, but it's done in a professional way.
Yes.
And
Yes.
most importantly, she's not lying. Um, yeah, she's not lying. Sentence after sentence, lie after lie. Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes people will believe their lies if said enough times.
Well, yeah, that's one of the strategies that people use. Uh, here's another thing. Here's something else I'll say, and I didn't know how much I needed this. Was she's young, she's vibrant, she's got energy, and I didn't. The contrast is astound.
Tremendous.
It's tremendous. It makes you go, "Whoa! What have we been doing here, people?" Um, we're looking at her, who she's running against. Not a spring chicken. We need young people, young voices. I also think we need to cap the age. We've got a lower limit on presidents serving age 35. There should be a cap, 75 maybe. Um, yeah, I it matters. Young people need to be involved. People who are vibrant, energetic. Yeah.
I think I it did not occur to me ever until this particular situation where we had two older men. I mean, Trump is no spring chicken. He's not far beyond or far under Biden. And think about ourselves as we've been talking about retirement. There is a reason that most of us retire from the workforce. And it is because we do start to slow down. We're not quite as full of energy. Thinking is not necessarily as quick as it once was. And now we're asking someone at the hardest point of their lives in terms of physical limitations, now also mental, and you're requiring this person to make split second decisions, confident decisions. I am astounded that we've never had a cap either. And maybe it's because we're living longer. I don't know. We had pretty old presidents in the past too, though. I just think that the demands of this job, I mean, we think teaching's hard. I mean, really?
Yeah.
And it is. And we're just trying to direct 30 children or 150, depending on what level. They're directing the entire nation.
Yeah.
So, and I know there's other people that are there to support them, but ultimately it's on you. And I do think that you're right. Consideration for age should be there.
Gee. Yeah, um, you look at each of the presidents as they've gone into to serve, and you look at them 4 years later, and you see the aging
So true.
that occurs. You see the gray hair come out where they didn't have any before. You see the change in the face, and that's a reality of the job and the level of the job that they're in. You're right, and as much as you've got to support and everything else, it's a very tough job. But I have to say, to that it was shocking to me to feel such a relief in seeing someone who seemed vibrant. And I love the idea that this person is no longer a boomer. Harris was born on October 20th, 1964. And that puts her right on the cusp of ending. That's what the U.S. Census Bureau says, that people born mid 46, that's the cutoff for the boomers, and it begins the millennials. So she's actually can relate to us boomers, but she is a millennial like you are. So that little bit of vibrancy, that one generation below the boomers, really important. I think that's exciting. And we're back. So what was going on with Gigi? We got to hear her show up.
I think somehow she broke into the house. The door wasn't shut, and then she gets very anxious when I'm not in her line of sight. So
I
that
just
was
imagine she's a big dog.
yes,
How many
with
pounds?
big needs, about 120.
Oh, what a cutie. We should put a picture of her up. We'll do that. You got to
Oh,
send me a picture. We'll put Gigi on our Facebook page so people can see what she looks like.
that'd be great.
Okay. So back to our discussion. Here's a another reason to be really hopeful. And I this is about Kamala Harris, but it's also about our nation, and the people, and what her impact is having on us. In her first week running for president, she has raised $200 million. Now, I feel lots of things about all that kind of money,
Wow.
but the fact that I mean, this is historic. The ability to raise this amount of money that short of a time, it says a lot about her, but it also says a lot about our country wanting someone and hopeful for someone like her to be our president. Um, Personally, I don't think there should be that much money involved in all of politics. It sets people up to for all kinds of problems. But at the same time, how exciting! People are voting with their money, so exciting there.
So I'm curious as to how you're thinking, because I think one of the things we were barely open to Hillary Clinton as a country when she ran. And I'm wondering, have we advanced as a country in accepting a woman, number one? And number two, a minority woman, because we brought in Obama, but that was contentious. So now we've got a woman that encapsulates both. And I think that would be my concern, is that much of our country, parts of our country, still may not be ready for this. What do you think? Have we
I
evolved since Hillary?
I call B frickin' S. Um, I was told. I remember sitting in that fifth grade classroom as a kid, and always concerned about justice and fairness. I was told that there'd be a woman president soon, and I was assured of that, just like I was assured of the metric system becoming our standard as well. It seemed so right around the corner, so inevitable, so appropriate. How could it not be something that we do now when it felt so probable and possible and real and right around the corner back when I was a kid in 1960s? Come on now, people. I call BS on this thing. I think America I think I know the world is ready for all of it, because all the other countries have had the
I know.
female
Even
presidents and
Turkey, like
premiers, and
even places you wouldn't expect have had female leaders.
it no, and it's time. It's past time. It's They're trying to make that pendulum swing all the way back the other way, so that it's never going to be time. And no, I think the majority of people in the United States understand that, feel that, embrace that. And people of color, it's that's not an issue anymore. Young people don't don't get that. No, no, I reject that 1,000%.
But you also feel it's because we're living in California, in progressive areas,
Oh, it could
that
be. But
because we don't live in the middle of Missouri and Kansas.
I can't believe that. I can't believe that all the people growing up, same time, the boomers, knowing that all this change is right around the corner when we were kids, being rejecting of that now. I don't think so. I think the vast majority of people are ready for it. And this is where it becomes important, where they all show up and vote. We need young people to get out there, and we need them to vote and vote like it matters, because it does.
So I'm going to, while we're opening up this Pandora's box, my next question is, though, as religion is beginning to enter into our school system again among certain states, isn't it the same religious movement that's very pro patriarchy? And if that is creating momentum in the classrooms, wouldn't you see that the impossibility of those particular states with those particular leaders? I just don't know if they can, even within the religious text, take on women in positions of power and authority.
Yes.
Because even within the churches, they're not there. So how do you feel that they would allow and be open to a woman in an area so completely governed by men?
Okay, so that is the minority. You know, this
Is
thing
it?
of that is, and to say that real people, people of color, women, LGBTQ, uh, people who don't make millions of dollars a year, that those aren't the divorced people, the immigrant people, children of immigrants, that these aren't the real people. These are the real people. And these are the people, citizens of our country with the right to vote, who need to get to the polls and do it. And you're not going to get everyone. You're never going to please everybody. That's okay. And we need to bring civility back to the world. We need to bring truth back to our world, our reality, where you can't sling lies left and right, and, as you say, keep repeating that so people believe it. That culture um, has to shift back to civility, morality.
Integrity, honesty.
Yes, please, and thank you. And so that we're I've got a couple more things before we wrap up, but I think that what we're talking about is probably the top reason. But here's one I'll throw in there too, since you're talking about issues around women. Um, you know what? Kamala Harris has the most delightful, real, and authentic laugh. She laughs. She sees humor. It's she's human. That makes her very human. And I love her laugh. I love that she can smile and be happy. That's what we need. We need positivity.
Yeah, we do.
And this thing of disdaining a woman, being very critical, hypercritical about uh, her laughter, her voice, that is so patronizing and misogynistic. No, I love her laugh.
And I think you just hit the nail on the head for me. And I think what you just said about the positivity. That may be the most important thing that we have not had in a leader, in that, everything is so serious, and politics is serious, life is serious, but you're right, we do need an infusion of the non-seriousness too. And you're right, she might be able to bring some of that, like you were talking about energy, but I think it's more than just energy for energy's sake. You're right, it's a positive infusion. It's the, like you said, the ability to laugh. I think we need a little bit of that too. I think we've lost humor along the way.
Yeah. And then finally, maybe the top reason, this idea, respecting the rule of law. I mean, who more is capacitated for that than a prosecutor, not a 34 count felon? Uh, she's an experienced as a public servant, prosecutor, senator, and yet not having done that for 50 years. She respects the rule of law and defends our Constitution, believes in the Constitution and defends it. Doesn't threaten to be a dictator on day one, or suspend the Constitution. So there we go. Top reason: defending democracy.
That was an excellent conclusion, an excellent one to end on. I like that, Sue. Thank you.
So, final thoughts. How did you feel with this discussion about politics, about Kamala Harris? Well, how are you
Uh,
feeling, Tina?
it was actually much more comfortable. I had thought about texting you a few times and saying I just can't do this. I don't know if I feel comfortable. I think the hardest thing is, Sue, is wording things in a non-offensive way, still speaking my truth. But what I really wanted to say, as I'm looking at this 35-year-old woman in the grocery store, she's fit, she's gorgeous, she's got on tight little shorts and a top and has pro Trump on her hat. And I'm like, as a woman, I just don't get it. And what I really wanted to say is, the fact that there were ever 50% of the population that voted him in the first time, Sue, I have still lost confidence. That's why there were so many things I wanted to say that I'm trying not to say, and it's hard. I don't know about you, but it's restrained speaking because I'm trying to monitor myself. Very hard.
I hear you, and I think as I was listening to myself and to you, I felt it, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. This is our first foray into this conversation, and maybe we'll feel that this is important to include in our podcast.
But maybe we are modeling the ability to not rip apart the other side. So maybe we're actually modeling correctness, because isn't that what we want? When you turn on Fox, it's a ripping. And I don't want any more ripping. Can we just be respectful? And I think we did do a good job at respectful speaking. So for that, I think maybe we did a great job, actually.
And I think I like the idea of continuing to include in an authentic and natural way discussion about any and all topics that are important to us. I mean, that's what
That's
this is
true.
what this is about. Our podcast is about um, the new tread, understanding ourselves, and every day is a new day. So, in that regard, we go there. But we've always played by rules about fairness and
Yeah.
about civility. I think there's a place for anger and for
Yeah.
venting, and we'll have to decide how we want to manage all that. And I don't know that we need to. I tried to think, how would I approach this. I didn't want to just come out with an assault against Trump, because first of all, it gets me really riled and I'll go crazy. Um, and
It
it's
shuts me
so
down.
it's so ongoing. It's been so much of our culture and history right now in our nation. And um, the instead, let's just talk about the good
The
things about,
positives.
yeah,
I love that.
yeah,
No, I thought that changed the entire thing. And I think that's how we can keep approaching it.
yeah.
We don't need to bash.
And I like
We
that.
just need to promote the good that's there.
Just the fact that she's a good person. I mean, she's has her faults and she's done things that are not great, as we all have.
Yep.
And you live and learn and move on and try to do better. Good on us, Tina.
Yeah, I'm kind of actually happy with how it all went. Yeah. Good.
Excellent. That wraps up this episode of Retired. Thanks for listening.
Join us next week on our next adventure. Until then, please feel free to lend your feedback or ask questions by emailing us at retiredpodcastnewtread@gmail.com. You're invited to follow us on Facebook at Retired Podcast New Tread. Check the show notes for links and contact information.
Retired is co-hosted by Sue Britz and Tina Lokkbakk. It's produced, directed, and edited by me, Sue Britz. Music and graphics are by me too. Please click to subscribe so that you won't miss your chance to join our retired road trip.